Hi, welcome to Tuesdays with Terra. I'm Terra Bundance, and today I'm going to talk about gifts, talents, and abilities. Now, I talk about that a lot on this channel, but this month I'm going to be focusing entirely on that. And what I mean by that is the things that we've been given as our strengths. So, our gifts could include things like artist, musician, chef, painter, things that go beyond the scope of what most people call a gift or a talent, which a lot of times people lean towards sports or arts, but there's also gifts and talents and abilities in math, in science, in language arts. And whatever our gifts are the things that we just naturally draw to, the things that we are naturally good at, the things that come easily to us and don't necessarily come easily to everyone else. So, anyone who recognizes what their gifts and abilities are and their talents are, it's really generally pretty easy to know. If you're very good at something, then that's what you can do for your life, for your living. It can remain a hobby for the rest of your life, but it's something that you dabble in always because it's something that you're very naturally good at and you love and enjoy. Now, gifts and talents and abilities can also be things that aren't seen on the outside. So, this could be things like being an empath, being a highly sensitive person, being a clairvoyant, being clairaudient, being telepathic, being a medium, being a channel, things that go beyond the scope of what we would consider normal, average, everyday gifts, talents, and abilities. Now, we all have some form of the unseen gifts and abilities. The problem is that the society that we tend to live in doesn't support us in strengthening those gifts and abilities. Most of the time, and this is very sad, it's actually squelched or squashed or toned down because of the fear of ridicule, the fear of people putting us down for those abilities. Children who see ghosts when they're young will be told that doesn't exist. Don't talk about those things. People who hear voices, which could be messages from people who've crossed over, could be a channeling opportunity, are told that's the devil's work or that doesn't exist. We don't talk about those things here. And so they're basically toned down and told to not do those things anymore. What happens is the pineal gland basically shrivels up and dries up because of our lack of willingness to keep tapping into those gifts and abilities. Other ways that can cause the pineal gland to dry up and shrivel up and become brittle are medications, things that we do too much, too in excess, alcohol, sugar, things that are pretty much obviously not great for our bodies when we consume those things and put those things into our body, breathing harsh chemicals. We put those things in our body in some way, shape, or form, and our pineal gland just can keep squelching down until it's like a dry sponge. And sponges need sustenance of some kind, which is generally specifically for a sponge is water. For humans, of course, it's water also, clean, healthy water. But beyond that, it's love, it's life, it's trust in ourselves, it's trust in our abilities, it's trust in our gifts and our talents. And then us putting those things out into the world and sharing them with the rest of the world is where we kind of build up our pineal gland. We build up the communication in our brains and we strengthen those by practice, just like any other practice. Our brain is a muscle and our heart is a muscle. And when we send messages to our brain and our heart and our nervous system and our bodies that is positive and uplifting and healthy and vibrant by putting good healthy food in our bodies and clean water and consistent well-being and health and nurturing of our bodies and our energies and our minds, then our growth happens through our how we show up in the world, our gifts and our abilities. So I'm kind of just touching on these things today, and I'm just going to briefly talk about a few of my favorite ones, the ones that I happen to have and love to build and feed and evolve and grow in by learning from other people who have similar or the same types of gifts and abilities. Because I know that I can't do the things that I do in the world alone, but I have to be the one that's willing to do the work and take the action and reach out to other people and learn from other people and allow my abilities to evolve and to grow through use, through practice, just like a musician, just like a sports person. So this is why when we talk about gifts and talents and abilities, and the first thought may go towards what's popular in society, it's generally going to be the people who stand out, the people who create things, or the people who entertain in some way, whether it's sports or performance or art, all of those places are the places that a lot of people go, "Oh, that person's very talented. That person's very gifted." The thing is, we don't talk about the scientists very often who are gifted and talented. We don't talk about the engineers very often who are gifted and talented. We kind of take them for granted. And that's a fascinating concept of our social society, the way that we treat people in the world as if one talent or ability is better than another talent or gift or ability. Not true. All of them are normal and essential and healthy and vibrant and beautiful and perfect and wonderful. It's just that for some reason we look at the standout people. And so consider what your gifts and talents are. And I'm not talking just about those that I might have just named. I'm also talking about the spiritual, psychological, energetic, internal gifts and abilities that either you're very aware of or you're not very aware of, and you either feed or you try not to feed, or you squelch or kind of push down. So I'm an artist and musician, and I love to create things. I've been singing my whole life. I've been performing on stage. I'm a performer, an actor, and all of these things are things that just came naturally to me. Things that my parents happened to notice when I was a kid, and they supported by sending me to voice lessons. And then when I went to college, I studied and practiced these talents. And so it's something that comes naturally to me, something that I don't take for granted because I've put a lot of energy and time and effort and practice into those talents. But it's something that it's kind of an assumed thing. When I was a kid, I always thought, gosh, if I lost my voice, maybe I wouldn't know what defined me. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. I lost my voice and I didn't know where to define myself. And so I kind of tried defining myself through the people in my life until I realized that I have so many talents and abilities, and I was able to really spend more time on those. And I think that might even be why one of the reasons why I lost my voice, just to let me see what else I was capable of. And let's put those to the forefront. So now singing is a hobby. It's also something that I can do for money from time to time, but it's not my living. It's not the thing that I do for my living. That being said, I teach vocal empowerment workshops and classes, and that's something that developed out of teaching voice lessons for 20 years. So now then I've branched that out into all these other avenues of the way that I show up in the world. And I've started doing crafts, and I've started doing food, and I've started written a book, and I've created cards. And so my talent, which I considered my singing voice and my performance ability at a young age, has developed now into something much more vast and expansive than my child brain could anticipate or even consider. And now today, I can live into more gifts growing and building and strengthening over a lifetime. Other gifts and talents and abilities that I have are being an empath, being highly sensitive, being a channel, being able to talk to people who've crossed over, not necessarily a medium per se, but someone who's open to hearing the communication of the universe. And I do this because I had to choose to claim those gifts that I have had my whole life. And so over time I've been able to expand them and grow them and develop them and nurture them and love them and practice them in business, in personal life, in friendships, in communication, in just like being me out loud. And this is what I'm here to talk to you about today is what are your gifts and talents and abilities on all those levels? Being an empath might be it. And if that's true, then let's study and practice what it means to be an empath. Let's learn about tools that we can use to support us. We have many opportunities and options and choices out there to find people who can teach us about being an empath. Same with being a highly sensitive person, same with being clairvoyant, same with being, having ESP of some kind of extrasensory perception, telepath, all of those things. There's other people who've done it. And so we turn to those people, we turn to those books, we turn to those movies, and we learn from them. And then we start making a choice to practice them in our own lives. And any naysayers that might be in our lives, whether it becomes about your talents, like artist, engineer, scientist, musician, performer, whatever, those talents cannot be squelched by other people when we decide this is what I'm doing with my life. The same goes for those other abilities, those other gifts and abilities, which are, clairvoyance, ESP, empath. I'm only naming a few. I really want to have a conversation about this. And please share the gifts and talents and abilities that you have in my comments below. And let's have a conversation about this. Let's start these conversations where we're talking to each other through these kind of comments, through the YouTube comments. Somebody says, "Oh, I have the gift of being clairaudient." And somebody else says, "What does that mean?" And the person responds, or someone else says, "Hey, me too." And they have a conversation with each other and we strengthen together. So talk about that with me. Give me some ideas, give me some thoughts, give me some of your gifts and talents and abilities that I may not have mentioned here, or definitely share about any of the ones that I've mentioned. And or reach out to me personally. I have sessions, but I work with people in whatever financial situation they're in. And I love to really get to know people and what they're here to do and who they're here to be. And I want to just put a word out there to every single one of us: be you out loud. That's why we're here. So be you. Don't be the person your mom or your dad or your aunt or your uncle or your cousin or your best friend or your partner or your kids think you should be. Be you out loud. And by owning that, by owning who we're here to be through our gifts and talents and abilities and our practices and our expressions, that's when the world is lifted up. When we tone ourselves down and let other people talk us into toning ourselves down, we're not lifting the world up. We're toning it down. Okay. It's essential. It's so important for us to really claim and express and be who we're here to be in the world. So this month, I'm going to be talking a lot more about gifts, talents, and abilities. We're going to be practicing an EFT later on in the month. We're going to be probably maybe doing a focus wheel, definitely doing some card draws. I'm going to be doing a lot more of those on Tuesdays with Terra. And so let's have a conversation. Share with me your gifts, talents, and abilities, and let's talk about it. I love it. Bless you. Thank you so much for being a part of this community and for subscribing to my channel and sharing it with anyone that you think might also benefit from it. I hope you have a blessed and beautiful day. Thank you so much for joining me on Tuesdays with Tara. See you next week.